Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The tension in the courthouse was so thick it felt almost physical, a dense, suffocating weight pressing down on everyone in attendance as Robyn Brown sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands clasped so tightly in her lap that her knuckles were bloodless, her eyes darting between the judge, the attorneys, and the man who had, for over a decade, been the gravitational center of her life, the man she had defended through countless whispers, accusations, and bitter late-night phone calls, Kody Brown. And yet, as the hearing unfolded, it became glaringly clear to everyone watching, both in the courtroom and those following the case from the outside, that this was not going to be the loyal, carefully composed Robyn the public had come to expect, the woman who could soften any blow to Kody's image with a tearful explanation about misunderstandings and family unity. Because somewhere between the opening statements and the mounting pile of evidence, something inside her had shifted, cracked, and broken open, and by the time her own attorney rose to question her, it was as though years of suppressed truth, resentment, and humiliation were bubbling to the surface with unstoppable force. The case itself was a tangled mess of property disputes, financial entanglements, and allegations of mismanagement, with threads reaching back years into the family's shared history, plots of land bought under one wife's name but paid for by another, bank accounts with signatures missing, and whispered accusations that money meant for the collective had been funneled into ventures that benefited only a select few, but at its core, it was about control, and in that courtroom, Robyn, who had long been portrayed as Kody's closest confidant and most unwavering ally, became the unexpected detonator of the most public implosion the Brown family had ever faced. At first, her tone was careful, almost measured, as she answered questions about when certain financial decisions had been made, who had been present, and how funds were allocated, her voice trembling just enough to suggest the stress of being in such a public setting. But then, under cross-examination, when the opposing attorney presented her with a set of emails, her entire demeanor shifted. These weren't just any emails, they were Kody's own words, sent late at night to various members of the family, outlining plans to consolidate all remaining assets into a single trust under his sole control, cutting off any possibility of independent ownership by the wives. Robyn's eyes flicked over the printed pages, and something in her expression hardened. The attorney asked her directly if she had been aware of these communications before they were sent. For the first time, Robyn hesitated, not the artful pause of someone choosing their words, but the frozen stillness of a person realizing they had reached a crossroads. And then, in a voice that cut through the muffled murmurs of the courtroom, she said, "Yes, I was aware, and I told him not to do it." A ripple went through the spectators, and Kody, seated at the defense table, stiffened, his jaw tightening as though willing her to stop. But she didn't. She kept talking. She explained that she had warned him repeatedly that centralizing control over the family's finances would destroy what little trust remained, that it would make the other wives feel like nothing more than tenants in a life they had helped build, but that he had ignored her concerns, telling her it was the only way to protect the family from itself. As she spoke, her words began to pick up speed, the dam fully breaking now, years of pent-up frustration pouring out in a torrent that no one, least of all Kody, had expected to hear in such a public setting. She admitted that she had defended him in interviews, in conversations with producers, and even in private with the other wives, not because she believed every word he said, but because she thought holding the family together, even under the weight of his ego, was better than letting it collapse. But in that moment, on the stand, with the truth staring her in the face in the form of hard evidence, she said she realized she had been complicit in something toxic and that protecting him had come at the expense of her own integrity. She looked directly at Kody as she said it, her voice trembling but fierce. "You've been telling everyone you're the victim in all of this, but the truth is, you've been holding on to the money, the land, and the control like they're the only things that matter. The family isn't a family anymore, it's a business and you're the CEO." The judge raised a hand to quiet the murmurs from the gallery, but the words had already landed like a thunderclap. Kody's face was a study in stunned rage, his mouth slightly open as though ready to speak, but unable to find the words. This was not the Robyn who had, for years, been his public defender, his confidant, the one person who would always circle the wagons when the others lashed out. This was someone who had seen enough, who had decided that whatever fallout awaited her was worth finally telling the truth. The opposing attorney pressed further, asking if she believed Kody had acted in the best interest of the entire family when making key financial decisions. She didn't even hesitate.
No.
He acted in his own best interest. He wanted control. He wanted power. And he didn't care who he hurt to get it. At that, Kody actually shook his head, muttering something under his breath, but Robyn wasn't done. She turned the conversation to the emotional toll of his actions, the way the children had been caught in the crossfire, the way trust had eroded to the point where no one felt safe sharing personal struggles for fear they'd be weaponized later. She spoke about how exhausting it had been to constantly put out fires, to manage not just her own relationship with him, but to act as a buffer between him and the rest of the family, and how somewhere along the line, she had lost herself in that role. By the time her testimony ended, the courtroom was silent except for the judge's pen scratching across paper. Kody sat motionless, his hands clasped tightly on the table in front of him, his face pale and unreadable. Whether it was shock, anger, or some combination of both, no one could tell, but it was clear that whatever he had expected from Robyn that day, it wasn't this. She stepped down from the stand, walked past him without so much as a glance, and took her seat beside her attorney, her back straight, her chin high. The scandal was no longer just whispered rumors or reality TV speculation. It was on the record now, immortalized in court transcripts, stripped of spin and sentiment. And for the first time in a long time, the power dynamic between Kody and the woman who had so often defended him had shifted, the cracks in their united front exposed for the entire world to see. Kody Brown will appear in Season 4 of Special Forces, World's Toughest Test. Fans were surprised that he agreed to do this show because he did not appear to want to do it. Fans are excited to see how he interacts with folks outside of Sister Wives. Well, it does not appear to be going well, as a female co-star has exposed what he is actually like. Continue reading to learn more about this. Kody Brown on Special Forces, the World's Toughest Test. Special Forces Season 4 will be released soon. Fans got to see who would be in the new season. There are many familiar faces, including Brianna Chicken Fry, Brittany Cartwright, Kody Brown, and many more. Throughout the event, the celebrities undergo numerous mental and physical trials. Only a handful make it to the end. While Sister Wives fans dislike Kody, they are eager to watch how he succeeds. They do not think he will do well. They are intrigued to observe how he interacts with people outside of his own show. A female co-star reveals what he is actually like. Brianna Chicken Fry has confessed that she and Kody Brown did not get along well during Special Forces. When asked if it was weird filming with Kody, she replied, "Let's just say, I had no idea who he was while filming. And we didn't always get along, as you shall see. Bri is not one to sit back and allow a man get away with anything. So, it is not surprising that they did not get along." They are, however, intrigued as to what actually happened on the episode. You'll have to tune in to find out. Brianna Chicken Fry appears to have clashed with Kody Brown on Special Forces. However, this comes as no surprise to anyone. In fact, fans are delighted to watch other ladies put him in his place on the show. He loves to assume he controls everything. However, he must have had a harsh awakening. Brianna gave little insight into what happened. Fans cannot wait to watch. What are your thoughts about this? Do you believe she put him in his place? Comment below. We'd love to hear your opinions. When Special Forces, World's Toughest Test first announced its latest cast lineup, the inclusion of Kody Brown from TLC's Sister Wives was met with a mix of disbelief, ridicule, and outright fury from fans who've spent years watching his polygamous family implode on national television. But now, weeks into filming, one of the female stars from the show has broken her silence, and what she's revealed about Kody Brown has left viewers both shocked and, in some cases, even more disgusted than before. Speaking in an exclusive off-camera conversation that later made its way into an unfiltered podcast interview, the anonymous female recruit, described as a fan-favorite athlete with a reputation for being brutally honest, painted a vivid, unflattering picture of Kody's real personality when the cameras weren't carefully shaping his image. "Look, I know people think reality TV is exaggerated," she began, "but with Kody, what you've seen on Sister Wives, that's him. If anything, the version on TLC is watered down." She went on to describe how, from the very first day of the grueling training, Kody carried himself not like a humble recruit eager to prove himself, but like a man convinced he was already a leader the others should follow. He reportedly tried to coach teammates during drills, barking orders as though he was in charge, despite being told multiple times by the instructors that no one was the leader in this environment. "It was like he couldn't function without trying to be in control," she said. "But the thing is, in this environment, you don't earn respect by talking. You earn it by doing. And he couldn't keep up physically with a lot of us." She revealed that Kody struggled with several endurance challenges, often being among the last to finish, and rather than accepting responsibility for his performance, he'd find ways to blame the setup of the course or claim he'd been sabotaged. At one point, during a freezing water submersion drill, Kody allegedly made a scene, loudly proclaiming that his body wasn't designed for this kind of cold, prompting eye rolls from several cast members. "It was always about him," the star explained. "Even during downtime, he wouldn't ask other people about their lives. He'd just talk about himself, his show, his legacy, and how the other wives didn't understand his vision." She also claimed that Kody seemed particularly eager to impress the female recruits, often turning conversations toward his relationship philosophies and describing himself as a protector of women, which she found ironic given his public history. "There were times he'd talk about how the media paints him unfairly," she added, "but when you actually listen to him speak, you realize it's not the media, it's him. He says these things with zero self-awareness." One moment that particularly stood out to her happened during a brutal uphill march with full gear. While most of the recruits focused on encouraging each other through the pain, Kody apparently used the opportunity to talk about how being in a plural marriage had prepared him for hardship because managing multiple women is harder than anything the instructors could throw at him. The comment, she recalled, earned a cold, collective silence from the group, followed by one of the instructors snapping at him to stop talking and start walking. She admitted that there were flashes where Kody seemed genuinely vulnerable. During one nighttime training when the recruits were forced to huddle together for warmth, he opened up about how isolated he'd felt since 3 of his wives left him. But, she said, even those moments often circled back to self-pity rather than true reflection. "I think he sees himself as a misunderstood hero in his own story," she noted. "And the problem is, that's exactly how he tries to present himself to everyone around him." When asked if Kody had made any allies on the show, she paused before admitting that while a few cast members tried to be cordial, most kept their distance after realizing how much energy it took to deal with him. "This isn't Sister Wives. There's no production bubble protecting him," she said. "Here, if you rub people the wrong way, they won't play along for the cameras." She also hinted that the tension between Kody and the instructors reached a boiling point more than once, with one instance so heated that she believed it might make the final cut of the series. He didn't like being told he was wrong, especially by the male instructors, she revealed. "It's like he's used to being the loudest voice in the room, and here, that just didn't fly." By the end of filming, she admitted, her opinion of Kody hadn't improved. In fact, it had worsened. "I went in thinking maybe there was another side to him, something viewers hadn't seen. But honestly, what you see is what you get. And what you get is a lot." She concluded with a telling remark that has since echoed across fan forums. "If Special Forces was meant to change how people see Kody Brown, it didn't work on me. In fact, it confirmed every bad thing I'd ever heard." And with that, the image of Kody as a misunderstood father trying to rebuild his life after heartbreak may have just taken another hit, this time from someone who survived the same punishing, unfiltered environment and came away convinced that the Kody Brown we see on TV is, unfortunately, the real deal.